Welcome to Maiden Mother Crone 333, a podcast with intentions to create a safe, sacred space of open discussion as a free resource on spiritual topics for awakened souls in a healing, helping, and guiding practice. Disclaimer: this podcast is for spiritual, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to be a substitute for medical care, psychological, financial, or legal counseling. Hello and welcome. We are going to talk today about our clairsenses. As we were talking before about actually awakening and going through the process, how do you know what you're experiencing during your awakening, and how are you getting messages from the universe? How are you getting messages from spirit? How are you communicating internally with your soul self? It's through your clairsenses. So we're going to talk about each clairsense, and you can think while we're doing that about how this might be coming in for you. Which clairsense do you have, and which one is super strong right now, or which ones do you want to work on so that you can get better at communicating? So Hope has the list, and we're going to start with her.
Okay. Hi. Sorry, I'm a little delayed. Yeah, so as Roxanne was saying, our clairs are intuitive senses. They're abilities that allow us, well, actually, let me just look at Google because I like the way that Google defines it right now, and that's just where I am in my headspace. So, according to Google, the clairs are intuitive senses or abilities that allow individuals to perceive information beyond the five physical senses. And that's exactly what it is. And every single one of us have the clairs. It's just knowing how to use them and how to strengthen them. Um, it's my understanding and my personal opinion that we all, with having the clairs, we can use the clairs differently, but there are maybe one or two on the list, and there's a lot of them where we focus in on more because they seem to be more prevalent with a lot of people. And even though we have the ability to work with all the clairs and to really strengthen all of them, I feel like with me personally, I have like two or three that are stronger over other ones. But you can definitely develop them more. So I'm just going to give you the list of what they are, and then we can talk about them a little bit more independently. So the first one is clairvoyance, and that is about clear seeing. Okay. There's a clairaudience, and that is the ability to, I'm sorry, I need my reading glasses. Just give me a minute because I can't see. Okay. It's the ability to receive intuitive vocal messages from spirit. So whether that's like your God, like God, angels, the divine spirit guides, um, it's just being able to hear. And sometimes that comes through as ringing. That's how it first started with me. Then there's clairsentience, which is like a clear feeling. That's one of the ones that I developed like right away. And that's, do you want me to talk? Do you want me to get into like what that is a little bit, or do you just want me to give the list? Because I'm going
Give
to get
the
off on a
list.
tangent.
No, give the list, and then we'll go on a
Okay.
tangent on each and every single one.
Okay.
One at
Then
a
there's claircognizance, clairalliance, clairgustance. I have to pause and remember how to pronounce these. Those are there's more. There's a lot more than what I just named, but
These
those are
are
the
the
few that people really, hone in on and work with, and that seem, like I said, seem to be more prevalent with people. My words are like all over the place today.
You said you were feeling kind of weird anyway, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
Feeling
Start
kind of off,
Let's
but
start with the first one, clairvoyance, and talk about that in depth for what it looks like for each of us.
okay. Sorry. Oh, you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my
Clairvoyance is
God.
me.
Carrie's like, woo, hello, Hope. Welcome to the party. Okay, so clairvoyance, clear seeing. That was interesting because when I was 7 or 8, I saw a spirit, which at that time, and without having the knowledge and the education in this area of study, I thought it was a ghost. And it really freaked me out. And then I remember is like the next one, I was like 12, and then through my teens, and I started seeing spirit. And they didn't come to me like how we look right now and how I would more see them today. It was scary how I saw them. Honestly, I remember the first one I saw at 7. I was 7 or 8, and I was going to my favorite tree to climb it, and all of a sudden I heard like drums drumming, and I thought, okay, this is weird. And when I looked to my tree, he had to like it was like almost teenage age, standing there with a football jersey on and ripped jeans and disheveled hair, but his eyes, they were like black sockets, and he was like pale. And that freaked me out. And I went running and I went home and I didn't go back to my tree for a very long time because that scared me. Excuse me. And then the next one that I saw her standing in front of my mother's window inside her bedroom. I could describe how she looked and stuff. But long story short, the way that I was seeing them, and I didn't know it until probably my late 30s when I really started to dig into my mediumship in this area. I was seeing them in what they were buried in, or I was seeing them what they looked like before they passed. And I didn't understand that. But it freaked me out to the point that I was like, I can't see them this way anymore. I don't want to see them this way anymore. Especially the one time I came back from snowmobiling with some friends and I was sitting in the truck to get warmed up. And all of a sudden, this girl just walked in front of the truck and she stopped and looked at me. And her hair was dripping wet. And she was like that cliche, what you would see in a scary movie. And she had the black eye sockets and she was just like pale. And I was just like, holy crap. So that's how I first started to see spirit. And then I was like, I can't see them this way anymore. I don't want to see them this way anymore. If this is how I'm going to see them, then I don't want to see them at all. So through my work, I'm trying to work back into seeing them. So I am starting to see them, but I see them more in my mind's eye now instead of like always physically in front of me. For them to like actually stand in front of me, it's because they have a pretty important message. And I've had that happen a few times. But now they come to me in a way that's acceptable because I did ask, if you're gonna let me see you, you can't scare me. So that's how it started with me.
It's really interesting that you say that because that is the number one thing that I think we advocate for is that you are the boss in your own spiritual journey. You're the boss. If you're getting messages or spirit communication in some way that is not pleasing to you, in some way that scares you, you set the boundaries. You tell spirit how they are allowed, excuse me, to communicate with you. So when you're young like that, you don't know. And I didn't know. And that's why I was afraid for so long. But you are the boss. You set those conditions with spirit. So if you don't want to see them like that, you can say, do not come to me looking in person. I don't want to see you. And spirit will listen because spirit wants your attention. They want to talk to you, they want to get messages to you, and they're going to follow the rules. They know that you're in charge on the earth plane in this dimension. And if they want to have anything to do with you at all, they're going to follow your directions. So you are always in charge. If you are, somebody, I'm going to work with intuitive kids here. I'm starting that program, but it's especially when you're a child to not have the wherewithal to know that you can say, don't show me that. You just think it's really scary. So yeah, you are always in charge. That's part of what happened to me. I think when I was a child, I was seeing a lot of spirit. I was seeing spirit, I was seeing angels, I was seeing a lot of things. But the way that my family was talking about how those aren't real and that those were like the devil and stuff, demons, and I shouldn't be communicating with them. Like it really scared me. So, oh, my microphone went off. So I don't know how I did it, but you also did it help where you turned it off and you quit
Hmm.
seeing it. And maybe that was at the time I was so scared and we were making the rules, right? We were telling spirit, I don't want to see you anymore. I'm scared.
Hmm.
So I stopped seeing them. And when I reawakened, when I reopened and said, okay, I know that I have to do this. I know I can feel them. I know that they're there. I want to see what is happening.
Hmm.
Um, there's two different ways in which I see. So the first one is like just in your mind's eye, like when you close your eyes and you can imagine like a red apple, that's how I would see spirit. Like if I close my eyes and I ask for spirit to come to me, I can see what they look like, or a guide or whomever, just in my mind's eye like that. But also, what happens when I'm reading is When I'm reading for somebody and their spirit comes in, and I have my eyes open and I'm looking, it's like a hologram. Like they kind of teleport down like a hologram, like on Star Trek or something. And so I see them outward, and they're usually up higher off of like our earth plane. They're up like here. And so I'm always like looking up and off to the side because that's where they come in for me. But clairvoyance is not just seeing spirit. I feel like it's seeing other things too. There's so many things that you can see. And part of clairvoyance, I think that we need to talk about is like spirit will point things out to you in a way that you can understand. You have to trust that what they're pointing out to you is important. I can't tell you how many times I've driven past a sign that said something and spirit was like, flashing lights, hello, here's your sign. So that's clairvoyance. It's seeing with your real eyes, and you can see real things in real life, or you can see energy, or you can see spirit. There's a million different ways, but it's seeing with your third eye, it's seeing with your real eyes. Your third eye would be like, I was talking about the imagination part in your head where you can like picture a red apple. So you can see with your third eye, or you can see with your real eyes. And a specific thing for me was I asked Spirit, I said, I was getting ready to quit my job and go to a new job, and I was just done. And I was like, Spirit, if this is the way that I'm supposed to go, like give me a big red flashing sign. I want to see it. Give me a big red flashing sign. That day, didn't I get stuck behind a freaking fire truck with flashing lights? Like I saw it with my real eyes.
Mhm.
I was stuck there. I was like, I see it, Spirit. Big red flashing lights. I get it. Okay. So they're going to communicate with you in the way that you ask them to. But some people have difficulty with clairvoyance, I think, because they expect to be like the sixth sense where the little boy just sees ghosts like they're real people walking around. It's not necessarily like that. It can be pictures in your head. Like I think that when you are asking for a sign or something, or you're meditating and you're getting visuals of like an eagle flying, that's clairvoyance. That's
Mhm.
that's legit stuff. That's things you're seeing in your third eye and your pineal gland. But also don't discount the signs that you see when you are just driving down the street and spirit brings your attention to a flashing sign on the side of the road. It's a sign, and you're using your clairvoyance to see it. Carrie, what do you have to add here?
I don't know. I feel like you did a good job covering it all. Because I was going to say, it was a good point when you added that they will just draw your attention to things. So when I'm reading, that is like same thing. Two ways spirit gives me message clairvoyantly is they will draw my attention to things around the room, and I know that that is part of the message, whether it's a specific color they keep drawing me to, or a shape, or pictures of my family. I know that that's part of the message, but I, like you, I see spirit like a hologram. they Where they are floating, though, for me, is based off of how they're related to the person, but also the type of spirit that they are. So I have seen like ancestors, but then I've also seen actual angels, and I've seen spirit guides, and they come through in different placements. So the higher up from the ground they are, it's kind of like the higher they are as like a spiritual being, like the angels are extremely high up. But then like an archangel, no, not an archangel. That's not what it is. There are beings that I channel that are pure light beings as well, and I don't know what they are identified as at this
Like an
moment.
ascended master?
Maybe, like, I'm totally blanking on what it is because I've seen archangels as well, but they definitely have facial features. But there are light beings that I channel that have never been human, so I don't see a
Mm.
human form. They are light, just purely light. They have no gender. They're just light, love. So they all kind of float in different locations. Ancestors come very close to me. They're very close to the ground. I can see exactly what they look like, what they're wearing, you know. But I also feel like clairvoyance is also seeing auras, seeing people's energy. So there are a lot of different ways to use it. And I don't have any scary stories. When I was a kid, I had a whole list on the side of my dresser of my imaginary friends that I played with outside. I was never really afraid of spirit. I've always seen them the way I see them now, and I didn't really have any terrifying experiences, thankfully. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay, that was good. That's interesting how you see the angels and the light beings. When you said light beings, I was thinking maybe star seeds, but then I know, I'm not sure. I don't know a lot of research behind star seeds. It's a newer area that I'm in amongst other areas. But I'm like, I wonder if it was a star seed, but I don't know if all star seeds have been on the earth plane. I don't know. I'd have to look into that, but that's cool.
Larry, I've seen light beings as well, but what they look like for me is like just literally like poles, like a
Hmm.
pole straight up and down, like a tube kind of. And there aren't any like arms or faces or anything. It's literally like a pole with at the top there's like phalanges. I don't know. Does that make any sense? So when you said light being, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's what she's talking about as well.
It's probably the same thing. That's just not how I see them. It's
Hmm.
almost like a human body, the shape of a human body. And it's like translucent and it's almost like filled with like water, if you can imagine that. Like you can see it kind of like flowing around and stuff. And that's it.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's kind of how I
very
see
cool.
souls when I do like the soul healing. It's similar to that. So
Hmm.
that's really
Okay.
interesting. Anyways, moving on to clear audience. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're good. This is good. I like it. Clear audience is being able to hear. So for example, I'm trying like ringing in the ears. That was one of them. We talked about that before in a different podcast. Is at the very beginning. I think I even said that I went to an ear doctor because I thought something was wrong with me with the ringing in my ears. But I'm also a paranormal investigator. So yesterday, when I was getting closer to the location we were investigating, like the white noise, like kind of like the buzzing and almost like a high-pitched tone was happening in my ears. And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, I hear you, I hear you. And it's funny because I'll sometimes ignore it because it happens so much that I'm just so used to it. So sometimes I'll tune it out because it even happens at work, and work isn't always necessarily the place to start pulling in spirit. But yeah, so I would hear like ringing in my ears. Uh, Again, like that white noise, or you're just hearing spirit. So like again, referencing being on an investigation, I will hear like the footsteps of somebody walking, or I might hear someone clear their voice, or I might hear a female voice or a whisper. Or spirit, whenever spirit comes in, like especially during a reading, um, even though it sounds like my voice, I can hear them. It's their voice, it's their words, it's what they're saying. And it's almost just like a back and forth communication. And I can't describe it unless you've experienced it. But you ladies know, it's like you hear them. And at the very beginning, it was really difficult for me because I'm like, well, they sound like me. Can they have like an accent or something fun? So I know it's, definitely not me, but no, you just learn that it's not you and it's their voice. Um, I'm trying to think of other things with Claire audio because, like I said, mine was just really the ringing in the ears, just like the little random noises here and there, the whispering, the rapidly talking voices. That's how it started with me, too. Like, I remember doing laundry one day, and all of a sudden, I just heard like a bunch of voices talking really, 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 really fast. And I was like, oh, holy cow, where's that coming from? And I was looking around, and that kept happening quite frequently, but I had no idea what was happening because I had gone through what I went through on a ghost level as a child, and then also with it's not accepted, that's evil. And then in my teens, everything and experiences to where I just kind of like blacked it out. I just like turned it off. I turned the channel off. So when it started to ramp up again, especially in my 20s, I was like, oh, what's going on? And then again, there's that religion piece that came into it where it's evil and what you're hearing isn't okay. And you got to be careful because, evil entities will disguise themselves as other beings. So I turned it off again, but that's how it started with me. So if you hear like those really rapidly talking voices and it sounds like a bunch of gibberish, it's just spirit. They're just trying to talk and communicate because you're tapping into their frequency, to their radio station. You're tapping into it and you're able to hear them. You're not going crazy, I promise you. Um, but yeah, that's some of how it started with me. I don't know, anybody else want to jump in?
I think with
Their
Claire,
audiences. Sorry, go ahead.
no, Kari, you can go.
Claire audience is probably my favorite. Claire, I love Claire audience. It is my second strongest one, but it's my favorite one. And mine actually started out through music. So Spirit would send me a message through song. I would just get a random song in my head. It would just be like a little blurb, and it would just play over and over and over again. Or someone would be talking and they would say one word and it would trigger this song to start playing in my head. And so it was when I was a teenager, it was a lot of music. Um, but I've never really had a ton of ringing that happens at times. I think it's more of to like get my attention, to make me pause and really like reflect on my surroundings in the moment. But I have heard, you'll be sitting there, even when I was younger, you would just be sitting there and I would swear like I heard my mom yell my name or something, and I'm like, what? Yelling, and they're like, no one yelled for you. So I would hear my name called a lot. Um, Now for me, clairaudience, it always comes in on my left side, which is also where spirit steps into my energy field. It's always on my left. So it is separate from me. And I feel like they give it to me directionally so I understand things, because things that come in from above are very like intuitive information that I feel drop in here. And then from my left side is spirit talking to me. And like you said, I do feel like the more I'm into the reading and just channeling it, it does kind of sound like it's just my voice, but I'll hear like the raspiness of their
Mm-hmm.
voice, or
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like the fast talking, the energy, you can just like hear the way that they speak. And I have had someone come in who was speaking a different language, and it was like 4 words and then it automatically switched to English. And I feel like they do that just to let you know, hey, like I don't speak your language, and this is part of the message. Make them aware that I don't, speak English, but then they just like it just translates so you can properly give the message. um, but that's really it. Music was my biggest thing. So like always be aware of those songs that are just on repeat in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that, because clairaudience is, just like we were talking about, clairvoyance is like your regular eyes and your third eye. Clairaudience is outward, hearing with your ears and hearing with your mind. You can
Mm-hmm.
hear both places. So I used to come to me, like I always hear things, always, always. It's something that I was never able to turn on. But when I wasn't paying attention and I was just like, no, I'm not doing this. I would wake up every single day. Every single day, my entire life, I wake up with a song in my head every single day. And it took me a long time to realize this is like I don't know, a form of divination or of my subconscious communicating with me about what's going on with me or what's happening in my world. And I was shocked to learn that that happens to other people. Like, I think that it does actually more than we know, and that's your soul. It's literally trying to communicate with you. So even just waking up and hearing a song in your head, like you are already tuning into yourself, and yourself wants to tune in with you, wants to like get with you. So start paying attention to that. And it's funny because as soon as I started actually developing and my mediumship and doing the things with it, like that stopped. I don't wake up with a song in my head anymore. Like every once in a while I will, but it doesn't happen. Like spirit just talks to me now instead of doing that, instead of doing that. Um, but yeah, it is. It's hearing footsteps, it's hearing your name, it's hearing it like when I'm actually reading for somebody and channeling spirit, it happens both ways. It depends. I feel like it depends on how strong the spirit is. Sometimes I just like they don't talk to me at all. They just want to show me things. Sometimes I just hear them kind of like it's like a telepathic communication. It's not necessarily them speaking. Sometimes it's just like I know what they're telling me. It's like telepathic. The words just appear in my brain. I know what they're saying. And then sometimes it is them literally just blah, 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 talking. And I can hear it in their voice with their inflection, with their accent,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And so I've been able to like recreate that for the people I'm writing for, and they'll laugh and say, yes, that was exactly like, what they sounded like. And I have had some that come through before that have spoken a different language too, which is really interesting because they'll be trying to give me a word and I'm like, I don't speak the language, and I'll try to like say it to the person. Like, I don't understand what I'm saying. And I'm afraid because I try to, anyways, that's a different point for a different day. But you try to filter things, and I don't want to speak in a different language and then not know what I'm saying to that person. So anyway. I feel like the clear audience is a lot the paying attention to what is
Mhm.
around you. What are you hearing, internally and externally? The ringing in the ears is a very common one that I feel like people get, especially when they're getting tuned in, and awakening. That's one of the first things that starts happening. And mine was less about the ringing and more about like you were talking about the high pitched tones that you hear, like the
Mhm.
instead of like the ringing. So Spirit had me go on this journey where I developed that because for people it's different. Some people hear ringing and it is like Spirit talking to them, and they're supposed to get into that and know that this is how they're going to hear Spirit. And mine was very much related to like energy, we'll say energy waves or like the lines of fate, things like that. So I would hear a tone and I would be able to see it visually as well, a color, the shape of it, that kind of stuff. And so it was like, what's happening around me? What are the people doing around me? Is this like their tone, their color? And when they're talking about like I applied for this job and I get a certain tone and color, I'm like, oh hell yeah, that job is going to be like the best they've ever had. It's like their purpose in the world or something like that. Or if I'm not connecting to somebody, or somebody is around me that is like not good for me, I will get that in the tones as well. They show that to me in a different way. So it's like when you get these things that start to happen, like the ringing in the ears, it went from just ringing in the ears to the tones, and Spirit like had me develop it. The more you pay attention to it, the more they will give you. So when you start to have these things happening, it's not like, don't be afraid of it. Just start to tune into it and say, oh, what's happening here? Am I hearing spirit? Am I hearing tones? Am I hearing energy? Is there something I need to be paying attention to right now? And so it is really just coming into yourself and giving yourself the space to hone in, to tune in and figure it out.
Mhm.
Sorry, I feel like I go off. This
No, you're fine. You're fine.
is not the Roxanne show.
No, you're fine. One of the other clairs is clairsentience, and there are exercises out there that you can look up to work with all these different clairs. Okay, so you just be careful what you're Googling and make sure they are reputable sites. But there is information out there to help develop them. And sitting with each of the clairs like 5, 10 minutes a day. Even if you're at work and you're in an office or you're just going outside for lunch or something, just sitting with one of the clairs and just start listening and learning how to work with it. Just giving yourself that time each day is also helpful. But the clairsentience, this was very strong for me at the very beginning, and it is being able to feel like another person's emotions, being able to feel spirit, being able to feel like a physical pain or ailment. It's also a gut feeling, okay? So that annoying little intuitive voice inside of us, but also the gut feeling. So you might get chills. Clairsentience was probably the one that I first acknowledged, especially as a child, and then a young adult and going into my, adult life. But I would walk into a room and I remember my one friend's house, and I was in my early probably early teens, and there was a cemetery behind her house, and she lived in an old Victorian house in this town, and it was one of the original homes. And I just remember the one day that I walked into her kitchen, I felt like this very heavy feeling on my chest. I was having a hard time breathing. I got really lightheaded. I got really nauseous. I had no idea what was happening. But then through the experiences and through my own education and learning of this, I realized that, oh, and again, because I didn't know any better and I didn't really have any guides or people when I was younger to help with this area. It was a ghost. You know what I mean? It was the paranormal. That's what I thought it was. So I instantly connected it too because how my brain was wired, it's bad, it's not good. So when I'd get these feelings, I'd be like, oh gosh, this isn't good. And I would start praying. But that's how it first started to come through with me. So now, I know when I first started developing my mediumship, and spirit would come through, I would feel like their physical pain, or I'd feel something that they had like an ailment from like something in their legs to their feet, or if it was a head or in the chest area, I'd get the pressure. But it wasn't like to the extreme of what it was before I knew or could understand it. Once in a while, though, I still do have a hard time breathing. Like last night on the investigation, as I was walking, all of a sudden I could feel like the temperature change in the air, and I could feel like it just was thick and heavy, and I was getting that pressure on the chest, but I've learned to work with it. I do still get lightheaded. So like when spirit comes in, especially if they come in really fast, even during a reading, it's like, whoo, I get a little off balance for a minute and I'm like, okay, I know you're here. Thank you. So I still get some of those little feelings, but it's not, to the extreme it was. But that's how it started with me. And I didn't really understand it. Of course, if you're getting pressure in the chest or you're getting any type of pains or anything that's not normal, definitely go to your doctor, consult with your doctor, rule that all out. I'm not saying to not do that. I'm just saying this is how it started with me, being able to feel the changes in the energy, being able to feel temperature changing, being able to be in a crowd and be extremely overwhelmed. And again, I have a little bit of anxiety. So I know sometimes that could be the anxiety, but I didn't understand that the energy with people and the emotions and also the ringing of the ears and being able to hear with that clair audio part of the clairs, that I was just like completely overwhelmed. And I remember pulling into parking lots of stores and just literally crying in my car and being like, I can't go in there. Again, consult with your doctor, but that's just what happened with me. And I knew that your body, you know yourself better than anyone knows you. And I knew my body and I knew this was something more. And I'm intuitive. I've known that from a young age. I had a little bit of an idea, even though I really didn't have a guide at a younger age to kind of, feel through this and understand it and kind of knew what to look for. But there were a couple of things that I did go to the doctor. And after I was like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. And I can't tell my doctor right now what's happening because they'll commit me. So there is that too. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot more with clairsentience, but that's kind of how it started with me and how I still kind of get things at times. But yeah, and that gut feeling. I know though, if my gut is like really extremely upset all of a sudden and literally saying, don't go left, don't go left, go right. Because what you're going to notice is once you start developing your clairs, you're going to take them and they're going to intertwine and work together. So you might be hearing, okay, don't turn left, but you might be getting the feeling of the clairsentience. And then you might also be seeing almost like a premonition or a projection. And it's like, okay, I'm definitely not going to go left. I'm going to go right or go straight. So what is going to happen is they're all going to kind of start to work interchangeably, the more familiar and comfortable you get with them. Okay, next.
Kari, I know clairsentience is a big one for you.
So clairsentience is my strongest clair, and it always has been. But like I said, clairaudience is my favorite because that one to me is fun. Clairsentience was my biggest struggle in life. I'm not even gonna lie about that. It was so, I don't know. I feel like it made my life difficult at times as a child, especially. I could always feel everyone's energy around me all the time. And it's before I learned how to control it, it's everything. I could feel natural disasters. I could feel all of it. It wasn't just people, it was the earth, it was plants, and it was just a collective energy. And I was just feeling all of it all the time. And it could make things very difficult. Um, Once I started to really understand it, which one of the best ways to do that for me was I learned how to sit in my power. So that is, just sitting in silence and truly feeling your energy, being very aware of your body, your energy around you, and then telling spirit, okay, go ahead and step into my energy field on this side. And then you can feel the shift in your energy. And then you say step out. And once you really get a sense of this is how I am meant to feel all the time, then you can really start to block out what is around you and be able to keep things in separate places. So clairsentience I use constantly because it's not one I've ever been able to shut off. It's just too strong, but I'm able to have, my bubbles and protect myself. But it's like a human lie detector, you immediately just feel the people's energy around you and you're like, oh, okay, that was a lie. That's super inauthentic. Like, and you just walk away. Like I have like 4 friends because I'm just,
True, it's true.
but it's so true. Yeah. So I use it a lot in that way, of course, just in general conversation. I can just feel people's energy and it is what it is. But when I'm doing readings, I also use it a lot because I use it as a way of, this is how the person passed. This is what I'm feeling in my body. And like Hope was saying, you get like this heaviness or these aches and pains in your body, and I acknowledge it and then I say, okay, spirit, thank you, please remove it. And then they take it out of my body. So this is not something you have to carry around with you. It's really just learning what your energy feels like and then being able to separate it and set boundaries with spirit. I think that's all I have to say.
I think it's funny because as you were talking, it's that whole idea, like, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's like, well, can I judge the energy by the way I feel? Because you really feel it out. And I've had people say, you're standoffish or you're this or you're that, but it's like I can totally pick up the energy of someone. And sometimes I get those red flags and it's like, they might be the best person inside. They, don't judge the book by its cover, but also trust your intuition. Trust that gut feeling that says, maybe this isn't my person, and just trust it. So anyway, go ahead, Roxanne.
Well, clairsentience is the clair for the empaths. And everyone, I feel like if you're an empath, you know. If you know, you know. And it can be extremely overwhelming to feel everything. And that feeling can be literal physical feelings in your body. It could be energetic feelings. It can be even like thoughts, I feel like sometimes that come in, that kind of stuff. So there's like lots of different ways that you can feel energy and that you can be an empath. And one of the things that happened for me is that I was totally overwhelmed and overloaded by it, that I mean, with like, childhood trauma and all the other things that happened, like I told you guys I had built a wall, and I literally built like a brick wall around myself. There was no shielding. It was like a wall. And I did crisis work 24/7. I was on call. I was at the hospitals when there was, something awful that happened. I was taking victims through the court system. I was seeing everyone on the worst day of their life, victims of violent crimes and, surviving family members and murder victims and stuff like that. I had built this huge wall around myself where I could still engage with them and I understood like the pain that they were in, but it was nowhere near like getting me. So like my heart was so protected. Like I was drenched in trauma all day, every day. I'm not gonna lie, it hurt me to my core, but my heart was so protected that I was not able to turn it off and actually connect with like family members or a husband or something like that. Like I was not able to because I just had it so built up. that it affected every part of my life. It was difficult to step out of that because I was like, I know that like that was probably when we do talk about the healing journey, that was the hardest part of the healing journey, was taking this wall down, because I was like, I cannot like I cannot feel this stuff. I can't let myself feel this stuff because I knew it was going to be this onslaught and I was just going to be a fucking wreck. And I was for a while, but then you learn how to like build your shield, how to say, this is my energy and I can have me shield up and I can feel your energy, but it's also not going to penetrate me, but I can open myself up when I want to open myself and allow a flow of energy to and from me, because I can give and I can receive. And that receiving of energy on my part on purpose was probably the hardest thing to do. Like, it sneaks in there, especially if you're somebody who is an empath. People's energy sneaks in all the time. And like, I have my bubble up all the time, but my family, like my daughter and my husband, um, I'll come in and I'll be like, oh my God, my head hurts, you know? And my husband's like, I've had a migraine all day. And I'm like, this just started. Like, you gave me your stupid migraine, you know? And it's because you're connected to them energetically. And so you have to say, if this isn't mine, spirit, take it away. And poof, it's gone like that. So if you're an empath or you start to take on people's ailments, which used to happen to me all the time, somebody I was around would have like their appendix burst. And then for the next day, like my side would be hurting. I'd be like, oh my God, is my appendix gonna burst now? You know? So that used to happen to me all the time. And now, like, I have to remind myself sometimes that I have to be like, wait, I feel like crap. Like, maybe I should ask spirit if this is mine. Because especially when you're out and about, like at the grocery stores, at Walmart, you try to put up your bubble, but people's energy sneaks in there sometimes, and you got to cleanse it. You got to tell spirit, take it away, especially when I'm getting ready to read for somebody. Like, as soon as they book with me, I will get symptoms that that person has, like MS, or if they have cancer or something, I'll start to feel it. And I have to tell spirit, like, I know this isn't mine. Like, take it away from me. We'll talk about it when it's time for the reading, you know? So that's what typically happens for me, is I take on the physical ailments and I feel it in my own body. And not only that, but clairsentience is like when you go through the chakras and you're doing all the cleansing and the energy cleansing and stuff like that. And we talk about how you carry energy in certain parts of your body. They're trying to communicate with you that way too, because we have like different parts of our body that mean different things. And so if you're constantly getting headaches on the left side, or having pain in like your right side or something like that, look up, like, what does that mean? What is your body trying to communicate with you? It might be, yeah, maybe your appendix is about to burst, but it also might be like something that's gone awry, subconsciously with you, that spirit's trying to communicate with you and to release some trauma or something that's happening. It typically, for me, I feel like it lines up with like, I don't know, we'll say like we were talking about lessons, or about, things that keep coming back to haunt us on our healing journeys. Like, I'll get a physical ailment and then I'll be shown like, this is a trauma that I experienced that I need to like re-heal another layer of. And it's like, usually like if it's my heart or something, it's peeling away those layers of like the energy that's there. So it's trying to communicate with you that way. And our energy bubbles, I do the energy bubble. I teach kids the energy bubble, just so that, like Kari said, you're in your own energy. You know what that energy feels like for yourself, and you can shield yourself while you're out and about so that not everyone's energy is circling around you all the time. And it's really interesting because I'm just going to add in here, I taught my daughter the energy bubble because she's a little empath who sucks up everybody's energy. But she will have days where she would wake up and she would just be a fucking mess and crying and not okay. And I'm like, what is wrong? And she's like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why I feel like this today. And so we like try to cleanse the energy, and she identifies her energy. And then I say, what is this other energy that's in there? Where is it coming from? And she can tell me, that's not mine. It belongs to somebody else. And so she's tied to somebody else and she can feel their energy. Like I was saying, I would get the migraine or something from somebody else. So she's able to then identify, oh, this isn't mine, but I know who it belongs to. And so it's having those energetic ties to other people and cutting them or keeping an emergency line open. I feel like I talk forever, you guys. I'm so sorry. Okay, we could talk about that another time, how to cut those energetic ties. But what's our next, Claire? I'm sorry. I feel like I just
Well,
ramble.
no,
You're
you're fine.
good.
You're fine. I'm really sorry because I feel like I have to add something more to the conversation of clairsentience. Um, because Hope had mentioned like a gut feeling.
Mm.
And then we were talking about like feeling your own energy. So that is another piece that is extremely important in understanding your own energy and your own intuition. So Hope is saying her gut feeling, like it's like, this like upset stomach, like, this don't turn left, where mine does not come in that way. And that is where you really need to understand your energy. So when my anxiety is triggered, I actually get
Mhm.
physically ill to my stomach. So I know, hey, this is a fear. This is an anxiety. This is not my intuition. My intuition is very matter of fact. It's, I received this information, whether it's good or bad. I have no emotional reaction to it. It's just right here and it's matter of fact. So that's one piece of needing to like truly understand your own energy and body. But also, when we're
Mhm.
talking about clairsentience, I wanted to mention not everyone is going to see spirit or hear spirit. Sometimes you truly are just seeing them. So if you walk into a room and you are drawn to a corner of the room and you feel like something is there, that's probably energy, spirit. Like that's probably someone is there and you don't know how to fully communicate with them. As far as you can't see them, hear them, that's fine. So then you have to use your gift to be able to connect to their energy, to then, like Roxanne was saying, like telepathically receive that information, really. So I felt like that was one area we didn't really touch on, so I wanted to mention
Yeah, you're reading energy. That's what clair
Mhm.
sentience is. Like you're reading the energy. And so if there is a separate energy in the room with you, you can connect to it and see what it
Mhm.
feels like. And you also have the ability to push it away if you don't want it there. Use your
Mhm.
energy and push it away.
Mhm. Yep. Um, okay, so the next one is clear cognizance, and I may have pronounced that incorrectly, but that's the meaning. It just means clear knowing. Okay. When you start to say something and you're talking, maybe it's about a topic that you don't really know a lot about, but you're in a conversation with people or a person that's talking about something, and then all of a sudden you're just like, blah, 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 blah. And after you're like, wait, how did I know all that? Because I don't know anything about this area. Um, it's that idea of like, I have no idea how I know that, but I know that, like, I knew, you know, it's a really hard one to explain. I get this one too. I do have this Claire. Sometimes I feel like what's popping in my head right now is almost like a deja vu too, where it's like, okay, I feel like I know this information because I've had this conversation before, but I haven't had this conversation because I don't know this person. So there's that idea, but then that also gets us into the whole idea of the string theory and the parallel universes and timelines. And that's like a whole nother podcast. But yeah, it's just like a clear knowing. I can't really go into detail. And I feel like this one is strong for me because I feel like I use it a lot, especially when I am getting the clear sentience part of it and I am reading the energy of a room or I'm reading the energy, like if I'm picking that up of a person, it's just that knowing, or if I go into a place and I'm like, something doesn't feel right here, or I don't know. This one's harder to explain. And I know that I incorporate it a lot in my daily life, but it's so just normal and natural for me to do it that I can't put it into words. A little bit of help here, ladies.
I think it's just that trust. It's
Yeah,
knowing
okay.
when you
Yep.
get the information, you just trust it and you know it. Like it's not a
Mm-hmm.
question in your brain, is this true or is this not true? You just know it. And you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I know that. That's a thing that I know. How do I know? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I just know. It's that
Yeah.
women's intuition. I feel like women just know things, but I'm sure it happens to men too. They get it too. And
Yeah.
it pops, it just pops. Like you just, sometimes it just pops out of your mouth. Like you just know the answer and you speak it. Like Hope said, sometimes the information just pops into your brain. And I try to set really strict boundaries with spirit, but I have happened sometimes when I meet somebody and I'll talk to them, and then I just know things about them that I have no business knowing. I'm not ever going to mention it to anybody or say anything about it to anybody, but I just know it. And I'm like, oh. And it happens sometimes where it's things that I don't want to know that are, not helpful. And I'll be like, no, I don't want to know that. Why am I picking that up? But who knows what it is? It could be like the energy, exchange that's happening. You just know it, you're picking it up. That kind of stuff happens. And it's just the knowledge. Like, I feel like it's the collective knowledge in the universe, and we are tuned into the collective knowledge that is outside of us. We have clear cognizance, we have clear knowing. So if there's something that I don't know, I've had spirit bring me before, like, oh, who was it? Oh my gosh, my brain. There's a man who was channeling, and when you think channeling's not correct, right? That's fake or whatever. There's a book based on that he wrote. I'm gonna have to go look through my resources. But this is back in like the 1819, late 1800s, I think early 1900s, where he was channeling and he was asking collective, like people didn't know what stars were. And he was saying like, what are stars? And like, they were giving him this information about like the gases and stuff like that. None of it made any sense to anybody at the time. But you go back and look at it and it's like, he was getting the information he had no freaking idea about, but they were giving him the right information. So you're just connected to the collective. The collective holds the energy, they hold the knowledge, and they're giving it to you like immediately. And it happens just randomly on stupid things. The one day we were in the store and I was looking at yarn, what I wanted to make for crochet, and I was like, I wonder how many yards this is. And out of like, just Lil wasn't even paying attention, just out of like, she was like 364. And I was like, what? Like, and I like turned it over and I was like, look at that. I was like, that's how many yards are in this. Like, how did you know that? And she was like, I just know. And I was like, okay. Like, sometimes it's so dumb.
That's funny. I love that though.
Kari?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to it because I honestly, I look at it as my intuition because there's no other way I can describe it. It's just receiving information and it is accurate. I was walking down the stairs the other morning to get my daughter's track uniform out of the dryer. And as I'm walking down the stairs, I heard it's still wet. Like that is the information I received. Like it's still wet. And then my brain's like, why would it be? Like I put it in the dryer last night. How could it possibly be wet? Lo and behold, it was wet, which was a problem because there was no more time to dry it. But it's just knowing things. You just get this matter of fact. And the only way I can explain it is I feel like it is just your intuition simply.
Agreed. I
No.
think it is.
Oops, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, it is. Like the other day, I was making this fruit thing for work and I was at the grocery store and I needed to get an orange and I didn't remember that I needed to get an orange. And I got all this stuff that I needed to get. And as I was walking through the store, I kept hearing in my head orange and I kept seeing a picture of an orange. And I'm like, yeah, I want oranges, but they're so expensive. I'm not buying them right now. So then I walk by the fruit and I stop in front of the oranges and I'm staring at the oranges and I'm like, okay, like it was like I feel like it was like that little voice in your head that's reminding you to do something or what you need, or it's reminding you. And I walked away and I still went to the cash register thinking about this orange. And then I get home and I'm making the recipe and I'm doing my thing and it's like, oh, I needed an orange. But, and I feel like some people are going to be like, oh, well, that's just because you know the recipe and you know that you needed to have an orange or whatever, right? I think it's more than that. It's more like this happens sometimes often to me, especially my anxiety is a little bit higher and I'm really not listening and I just have a lot going on. I will get like the little subtle clues of things that I don't know and I'll hear it, but then I don't pay attention. And then later, like with the shirt or like with your laundry that was wet, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why that was coming through. So it's almost, if something comes in over and over and over, like a couple times, or you hear it a couple times, then it's probably not just your anxiety. It's probably not just you saying, oh, okay, whatever, and brushing. It's probably just, it's that clear cognizance where you're being told. I feel, okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm forgetting where I'm going with it. But anyway, that was just an example.
I think the other important thing about this is it's one of those things, again, like your intuition that we were talking about, it comes in and it does not have any emotions attached to it.
Yep.
So just clear knowing, like you just know it, it's a fact, and you're not feeling one way or the other about it. And I have had situations like I'm not an anxiety person, but there are some things that will give me anxiety, like if somebody who's a close member of my family is going away, like states away, and they're separated from me. Normally they're in very close proximity to me. When they're away from me, like I in my brain am like, I don't know, I just get the crazies and I start to be like, oh my God, are they gonna get kidnapped? Are they gonna get murdered? Or like what is gonna happen to them? You know? And so I'll wake up and have like anxiety and I'll be thinking about it. And I'm like, is this like, am I having a vision? Do I know what's happening? Or am I getting this
God,
information?
yes.
And then like, I'm like, but I'm feeling the whole way through it. And that's when I tune in and I ask Spirit, like, what is going on? Spirit's like, girl, you're just getting anxiety, like you're fine. It has all this emotion attached to it. If something were truly wrong, you would just know. Right. And I'm like, okay, I trust you. And then like I'll get a phone call later on, like, oh, we made it, we're on our way home now. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But
Mm-hmm.
if it has feeling attached to it, I feel like is whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. But if there's no feeling, if you just get the information, which I get, unfortunately, I was just another example of this is we had I live near like a big river. It's a big place where everybody wants to kayak and hike trails and things like that. And I heard the alarms go off one day. And the alarms are always going off, like something crazy is always happening. And I immediately knew, I just knew like something was happening, that somebody's life was in danger. So I stopped and I tuned in and I was trying to send like protection and healing to that person. Um, just on instinct because I knew. And I immediately, as I was doing that, felt that the person was gone and that their spirits had come to take them. And so I was like, oh, like it was too late. By the time the alarm went off, it was already done. And then like, I don't know, probably like hours later, we found out what actually happened was, somebody had fallen into the river like in January and died. So I was like, oh, like I knew that they weren't gonna find that person alive, that it was a fruitless effort in finding the body. But you just know. And I didn't feel anything with that. Like afterwards, I was like, oh, that's sad. But in the moment, I was like, I just knew like this isn't, you know, they're gone. It's done. And so people like moms, I feel like get that, especially with their kids. We are energetically attached to our kids. We just know things about our kids. You hear the stories about a mom waking up at 4 a.m, like something's wrong with my child. Like you just know. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, anyways, but me just rambling again. Sorry.
No, no, that it's all very true.
We need to have a hand signal where you guys cut me off. Like, stop.
You're fine. So the last two clairs, and these aren't the last two clairs, all the clairs that we've talked about today are not the only
Popular
clairs
one.
out there. They're just the ones that are the most popular. So for myself, I'm going to group these next two clairs together. Not that they're not important and that they shouldn't be recognized individually, but because they're just not big for me. So Claire, am I going to say this right? Claire Alliance, which is like smelling. Okay. And then Claire Gustance is taste. Okay. Those aren't big for me. So I can smell anything. Okay. I have a very good sniffer, unfortunately, sometimes. But when it comes to spirit, yeah, not usually, can't usually smell them very well. Once in a while during a reading, I might have something come in where I might smell a fragrance, or once in a while, it's usually my grandma. Usually I can smell my grandma. I remember her perfume in a teal glass bottle with a floral top screw lid. I'll smell her, but for the most part, I don't really smell spirit. I don't sense it. Like somebody would be like, oh, do you smell that cigarette smoke? And I'm like, yeah, the person's outside the window smoking or standing outside the door. Like I just don't really smell them. And tasting there, like during readings and stuff, people will be like, oh, I can taste the apple pie or I can taste this. And I'm like, Must be nice. Okay. I get the feeling. I can feel the pain in the arm or the pain in the legs or somewhere, but other people get the lovely taste, and unfortunately these just are not very strong for me. So I can't emphasize a lot on them.
Kari, what about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Hope. I've only got taste one time in a reading, and it was like bubblicious bubble gum. And then smell, I don't, it's so rare that I get it. When I was younger though and didn't practice, I did get it. My grandmother passed when I was 15, and then when I was old enough to drive, she would be in my passenger seat all the time. I would smell her all the time. She would always come through as the scent of like the one cookie that she made all the time, and I would just smell it, and I like knew that she was right there. Um, I mean, it pops up sometimes, but it's so rare because I feel like spirit uses my other clairs to get the message across. I would say it's most prevalent in a Reiki session for me. I had a session a couple of weeks ago where there was like a family member who was very attached to this person, but it was almost like in a negative manner. So I was kind of like creating like a boundary there so the person could have a healthy relationship, if that makes sense. And when I cut that tie and then was describing to the person um, what I experienced, I told the person that this was a living family member. This is what they looked like. And all I smelled was like stale cigarettes and alcohol. And then they immediately knew who it was and explained it like that. But typically when I'm reading, spirit gives me the information in different ways. So, yeah.
I'm surprised that you guys don't get the smell more often. I feel like I get smell all the time. That's something that is strong for me. But like Hope said, it comes in with everything else. Like I'm seeing something, I'm hearing something, I'm feeling it, and I'm smelling it. It's like I use all of my senses all at the same time. Um, that's interesting. I feel like the gustance, the taste, it doesn't happen as often. Um, and that's kind of a once every once in a while. But the smell thing I feel like is constant and it's on a daily basis. And I'm always walking around the house like I smell banana bread, I smell smoke, I smell something. And Brandon's like, you're insane, like your sniffer's just off the chain. And I'm like, no, I smell it. Like I know the smell of like the cigarette smoke is, and it's my dad smoked menthol cigarettes, and I get that smell with him all the time when he comes in. I can smell that. Um, and when I'm reading, like I get the smells. Like I feel like I don't know how to explain this, but I can be transported like mentally and visually and hearing and everything into like a place. So like if I'm saying like, oh, I see your grandfather on a farm, I'm on the farm, feeling the sun on my face, I'm smelling the field, like I'm getting all of it all at once. Like I'm there, I'm experiencing it, kind of like I'm astral traveling or something. But and it depends on the spirit what they're able to give me. But also when we are astral traveling on purpose, I'm tuning in and using all of my senses. So it's like when you have something that you're smelling, but there's no reason for you to be smelling it, like your grandmother's perfume, like your dad would smell of cigarettes if your dad was alive, or something along those lines. So, the one friend that we have when we do like our medium circles, I never really thought of it this way, but she said every time she smells poop, like it's good luck, like something good is going to happen. Do you remember that? And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, I never like paid attention to what I'm smelling and then really connected it to what comes next. Like I try to be like, Spirit, why am I smelling this? Spirit, what is happening? But to really put something in line like that, pay attention to what you're smelling or experiencing and then see what happens directly after. Because I feel like I smell poop all the time, but it's also like I have a very gassy dog, so.
Mhm. I just thought of it as you were talking and you smelled about something like, or you said about something burning. I have gotten at work recently, so maybe this is one that is coming in that I can smell something burning. And so the one day that I did tap in to find out, okay, why do I keep smelling this? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, is my outlet, burning? Is something wrong with it? Is it the wiring? No, I got that it's an actual male, energy that is in the building. I got more of like a custodial feel around him and that he's in the building and stuff. It's funny because it just came to me, like, it happened on Friday where I smelled the fire burning or that's and it's not like a fire, it's, literally, like, almost like an outlet smell, like, if the outlet's bad,
Like
that
electric.
yeah, like that kind of smell, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I know you're here, but we can't talk right now, I'm kinda busy." Um, that day also, though, which was kind of funny, is not long after I had smelled that, our fire alarm went off, but it was an accident. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't supposed to go off, but but I guess it has happened like maybe 2 or 3 times at the most where I have smelled that smell and I'm like, "Oh, that is linked with a spirit that is in the building." So,
It's funny because it was like instant validation for you.
yeah, so while you're saying it, I'm like, "Oh, wait, that's right. I have smelled that, but it's still very rare for me to smell or taste." And I'm kind of okay with the taste, especially in the smell. I don't want to smell poop. I don't care if it's good luck. I don't
I
want to smell
almost
poop.
I almost wonder if I don't get smells and stuff because I can't describe it.
Yeah.
If it's not cigarette smoke or stale alcohol or a flower, I don't know how to
Mhm.
describe what I'm smelling. So I feel like I would just get caught up on that. So we know spirit
Yeah.
gives us, what we need and how we're going to best communicate it to the sitter. So I feel like that's why I don't get it because it's always random times. Like when I was in the
Mhm.
basement working the other day, I smelled like an old woman. Like, and how do you explain that? Like, I could just tell it was an old woman.
Mhm.
And it was brief. And as soon as I acknowledged it, I was like, oh, weird. And then it's gone. How would I explain that to someone I don't know?
But when you're awakening and you're experiencing these clairs, like they're coming in for a reason. So when you're starting to get phantom smells, things that you would have no reason to smell, and you're asking yourself, why am I smelling this? Is it like the cigarette smoke, like my dad? Is my dad there trying to comfort me? Is it, what is happening? Are you smelling banana bread that your grandmother used to make? Are they trying to comfort you and let you know that they're there? That kind of stuff? Do you smell the farm that you grew up on and you're like, oh, like maybe I need to just relax and be childlike again or something. So it might be one that's easier for spirit to communicate with you. And you just have to pay attention to what's there, what's happening. What are you taking in with your senses, your extra senses, and not shoving them off, trusting that what you're getting is for you.
I also think what I noticed during readings, especially at the beginning of developing, that if I did smell that smell, that was, is my grandmother's smell, it was because spirit was letting me know that a grandmother energy was coming in. So before I was able to, place spirit or ask for them to come in a certain way or to work with their energies, in a specific way so I would understand who was coming in, um, I would get like that smell and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's connected to like the grandmother feeling. Or sometimes getting that farm smell, it's like, okay, the person was, had like some type of a farm connection. Even if it wasn't their farm, they had a farm connection through the family. So I've learned to use some of that also is yes, they are definitely around us to let us know they are here to comfort us. But within my mediumship, I also feel like it's a tool to use that it's like, okay, this is who this person is. Especially if you can't get a clear read on who they are right away. And as soon as you become comfortable, I might have grandma come in and stand over here by me, but like spirit likes to shake things up a little bit and like to, keep you on your toes with it. So that's a way for me to be like, okay, that's that smell. It's a grandmother energy coming through, so you learn how to adapt and also use and understand it. But
Yeah. So you might have an idea now of what your strongest clair senses are, and you can start to tune into those during your awakening process, or to start to develop yourself and stuff like that at first. But if you want to work with the other ones, I feel like once you start tuning in and actually paying attention, you will just continue to get more and more and more and more. And you can purposefully, like we were talking about earlier, sit down and say, you know what, I want to work on my clear audience. I want to be able to hear more. And when you're setting that intention and telling yourself or spirit, this is what I want to do, they will work with you. Give it to me in a way that I can understand it. Give it to me in a way that I can hear it internally or externally. If you ask, like, spirit will work with you 1,000%, always. And you are the one who makes the rules. So if they're giving you something, if you keep smelling, waking up in the middle of the night, smelling your house burning down around you, tell them, stop doing that. I don't want to smell that. It scares me. Stop. Give it to me in a different way. They will stop. Okay. You are in charge. You are in charge. You make the rules. You tell spirit, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. Or if I'm gonna feel you, I don't want to feel how you died. Because that can be scary, like getting a heart attack feeling like, oh gosh. So you can set the rules. You set the boundaries. You tell spirit what you're okay feeling, how you want to take in the information that they give you. Anything to add, ladies? No?
No, I think that's it. And just be open to exploring the other clairs that we have not talked about today. Be open to
You can
those too,
Google
because
that
it is
stuff, look
different
it
for
up.
everyone.
I said you can Google that stuff, look it up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different clairs that you can tune into. Those are just like the main ones that people tend to talk about. So thank you for joining us. We leave that with you with love and light.